Hello and welcome to FDT-TV. I am Mike and I'm joined by the very lovely Mr. Ian Varker. We are here on a weekly basis talking about things Premier League, but we do also cover other major sporting events. Other sporting events are available on this channel. Ian, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I enjoyed some very entertaining games. Lots of goals this week. So yeah, it's all fun, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. It depends. It depends who you're supporting, I suppose, is
Yeah.
the answer to that question. Obviously, very clearly, if you are new to the channel, I'm an Arsenal fan and Ian's a Newcastle fan. Although he has a bit of a running joke at the moment with the Declan Rice shirt over his shoulder at the moment, because it is looking increasingly likely that Declan Rice will be on the move in the summer, with Arsenal being a potential club. But more on that as the weeks unfold, coming into the transfer window at the end of the season. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Arsenal, who have been on top of the Premier League for 160 odd days, have had a bit of a shit time over the last few weeks. Excuse my French. Obviously drawing against Liverpool after being 2-0 up. Liverpool paid us back to 2-2. Coming to play West Ham. Again, a game which we thought was going to be a fairly easy ride. 2-0 up in the space of, I think it was about 20 minutes, only to be pegged back again. Then to play Southampton again, a game which you thought was going to be a dead nail on. And we find ourselves 3-1 down at the start of the second half, but managed to claw a victory back. Salvage some pride, I think, on that particular fixture, drawing 3-3. We then travelled to Manchester City this week. A game which was, I think it's fair to say, shit or bust, if I'm being completely honest. And we just didn't turn up in that particular game. It was horrific. I think we were lucky only to be, I think it was like 1-0 down at the start of the towards the end of the first half. But yeah, City then just absolutely run riot with us. We didn't have a chance. We didn't look into the game at all. So it begs the question, is the title race over for this season? Obviously, we've still got a few games to go. Manchester City are now top by a point, I think it is. And if we win our game tomorrow, we will go back to the top of the league. But City still have the 2 games in hand over us.
Yep.
Obviously, as an Arsenal fan, it's extremely deflating because there was always... It's the hope that kills you, I think, is the fairest way to sum up this season. Obviously, if you go back to the start of the season and look at our videos... obviously, there's content that is released on a weekly basis. You'll be able to see that realistic predictions for this season was to get back into the top 4 and to possibly go on a bit of a cup run. The season has panned out extremely differently. As I said, we were on top of the Premier League for 168 days, I think it was. And like I said, with those games that I've just mentioned, they've kind of killed our season a little bit, and it looks as if we have now conceded the title to Manchester City. Obviously, what do you think Arsenal's chances are of this season of claiming any silverware?
You can never say never. I think it's gone now. I think that the mentality is going to be hard to get back to winning ways. Not necessarily say you're not going to win again, but they've come from behind. They're chasing you. I think you've been constantly looking over your shoulder a little bit, which is why the maybe a bit lackadaisical is probably the word. Performances recently, but what I would say is, if you had been behind and been in second the whole season, and you were at this stage a point behind, everyone would be going, actually, that's really good. Man City are on another level, and to be only a point behind them, all right, they've got a game in hand, but only to be a point behind them at this point is a phenomenal thing, considering the squad they've got, the goal scorer they've got up top. It's just one of those things that it hasn't happened that way. That you have dropped those few points. Still a good record: 23 wins, 6 draws, and 4 losses. It's not bad at all. Had you been able to get a few of those draws over the line, which you were close to, and they should have been wins, you would still be laughing. But I don't think finishing second behind this City team is any poor feat. I think when you look at Arsenal fans at the beginning of the season, the aim was top four. You've done that. That's going to happen. There's no way you can drop out of that now, really. And had someone said to you at the beginning of the season, you can be second by 4 points, I think you'd have bitten their arm off. So it's that bittersweet thing, because it's that thing that was almost a title. It may still be a title. City may slip up. You don't know. But it's one of those things. You've got to look at the positives. Actually, next year you're going to learn from those experiences, as you did last year. Last year you was losing those games. Now you've turned them into draws and wins. This season there's a few draws, a few slip ups, and next season they're probably going to be wins as well. So next season's definitely one to say, right, we need to push for the title now. But you're back in Champions League, which is a big draw for signing people. And yeah, you've got to look at the positives in these things. You could be Chelsea and going, we could still get relegated here looking at the run of fixtures. So all right, you might finish second. Boo hoo. That's a really bad thing to do, isn't it?
Well, yeah. To be honest, I mean, as I said, it just going back to what I was just saying. The hope is the hope that kills you. And, obviously, like I said, like you just said, going back to the start of the season, had someone said to you that you're going to finish second after giving City a fantastic run throughout the season, you are right. People would have bitten your hand off and possibly would have even laughed at you at some point when you look at where we were sitting last year, or the last couple of years to where we have come from, and there has been a significant improvement within the squad. And I think it's the overall culture, with the fans getting behind the players actually putting out performances where, on the most part, where the fans are putting out performances where they look like they're happy to be playing for the club. And there's just been some stupid goals that we've conceded recently. I mean, I'm starting to lose count at the amount of goals that we've conceded from set pieces. As soon as we conceded the second goal, I think it was for John Stones, just before half time, and I said to one of my mates, I was just like, this is going to be a goal as the free kick was given, and obviously there was, I suppose, one of those really contentious VAR decisions. I'm still a little bitter about that particular decision. I think had that goal been chalked off offside, could have potentially changed the game. But obviously, looking at City's quality, they are a phenomenal side, and I like that there's been so much attention on Arsenal this year. We've kind of been the sleeping giants. That have kind of reared their ugly head for the first time in I don't even know how long, but I'm struggling to understand the rationale behind the whole bottling thing. And I know it's something that we've been speaking about over the last couple of weeks, but everyone has been saying throughout the season, Manchester City are going to go on a charge, they're going to win the league or whatever. So is it that we have bottled it, or is it that it's just coming to fruition what people were saying? Do you know what I mean?
It's a two-sided thing. I think some of it is just funny because there are a lot of Arsenal fans who are bitter and can't look at it from a level-headed point of view, and just to sort of to turn the knife, so to speak, creates quite a funny reaction. On the other hand, a number of those games that you drew, Southampton, West Ham, Liverpool, you were in control of all. Well, you wasn't in the Southampton game, but Southampton are the team that are getting drummed this year by everybody, and sitting top of the table, you shouldn't have been behind to them by any means. And then you come and play us. We're struggling this year. Okay, we can score some goals, but we're by all intensive purposes, pile of shit this year who can't keep possession. You go 2-0 up in 10 minutes and throw it out and then just stop playing the game. And same with Liverpool. You go 2-0 up and just go, job done. where it's quite clearly not. That you lack that killer instinct of the sort of the champions. You go and kill off, get a third goal, it kills the game. Doesn't matter if you get two back, you've killed the game. I think there's a stat. I may be totally wrong. There are more teams have lost from 2-0 up than of one. Well, not of one, but that's the most stat that they lose points from is 2-0 up. So go and kill that game off. Against us, you could have had 7 or 8 in that first half quite easily. You got to 10 minutes and you went, nah, you know what? Done. Let's look at the next game rather than concentrating on the team in front of you. So I think in that sense, you've bottled some games that I say bottled. You've lost control of some games that you should have wiped the floor with the other team.
Yep.
And that's where the bottling comes in as well with the reaction.
Yeah.
As with anything. You get a little reaction and people ramp it up, don't they? So
absolutely, yeah. I've been one of those this season. I will admit it, and I've tried through the best of my ability throughout this entire season to be as level-headed as possible, and even the amount of conversations that we've had over the past weeks where we've talked about, could Arsenal slip up? This is before we had even slipped up. Could Arsenal slip up? Could there be what am I trying to say? Could Arsenal slip up? Is it Arsenal's to lose? And I think I've been fairly level-headed and said, until it's mathematically impossible for us to lose the league or for us to win the league, yes, there's always that possibility. So I'd like to think I have been kind of fairly level-headed, and just going back to the expectations at the start of the season, 100% top 4 I think was definitely our ambition for this year, and I think that some Arsenal fans need to kind of appreciate that where we've come from, certainly over the last couple of seasons, to where it looks like we're going on this trajectory. And I hope obviously it continues. Getting into the Champions League guaranteed us like an extra £50 million worth of income. Yes, I know there's obviously some people's contracts where if we're playing in the Champions League, they get higher wages and all this sort of stuff. But that by the by, it's extra income to come into the club, which means we can go back out and start getting those recruitments for the more higher profile player and look to get rid of some of the chaff that we've still got in our ranks. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's here come the excuses. Injuries have played a part, obviously in our demise. And I think looking at William Saliba, how crucial he's been for us this season, that's definitely become more prominent over the last couple of weeks. But that's by the by. It looks as if Arsenal's title chances for this season have gone. Very sad to say it, but you never know. It's been a funny old season. Obviously, Fulham did give Manchester City a game yesterday. They're only scraping a 2-1 win over them. So you never know. They may come to play you guys, and you may do us a favour. Hopefully, highly unlikely, but we'll see what happens. But speaking of West Ham, sorry, Gordon, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those. Sorry, I didn't have my hand up. I was scratching my head. It's one of those things that if you had to put money on it at the beginning of the season, you wouldn't have said an injury to William Saliba would have been the key turning point to your season, because you would have thought he's going to play a bit part in the squad. There's no chance he's going to be starting every game and be that key linchpin in the defence. So it's just it's a bit strange, but you build on it and go again, don't you? That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And you say, talking of West Ham, we lost to Palace 4-3. So it's one of those that we've had a torrid season this year. We've been poor in every aspect of the game. But I think there was a little bit of, not belief, but there was a little bit of, we're starting to see some quality come through finally this season. We lost that game to Newcastle, didn't we? Got drummed against Newcastle. We went and then beat Fulham, which was, I thought we was going to do that. That was one of the games I put down for us to win out of our remaining fixtures. And you're like, okay, came against Fulham. We then had a dodgy away game to Ghent, which was like, here we go again. All of a sudden, a couple of days later, we draw to you after being 2-0 down in 10 minutes. Now, by all intents and purposes, that should have been a 7-0 game. There's no way we should have been 2-2. But everyone was saying, "Oh, how fantastic West Ham are back at their best," and it's like we were dog shit in that game. we were dog shit, and I will disagree with anyone who says any different. We got lucky that you stopped playing after 10 minutes, and we did manage to nick one back, and then all of a sudden it turned around a little bit and it wasn't a case that we were the better team. You weren't playing. If you'd carried on at the same pace you had for the first 10 minutes, we would have been spanked again. But then we went on Europa Conference League, a 4-1 win. So we started to see some goals coming in. Bournemouth, we went and beat 4-0. Bournemouth on a bit of a decent run of form, I would say. But we beat them 4-0. And it's like, oh, hang on, here we go. Happy days, we're going to do this. Now, Bournemouth... I don't want to be disparaging against them, but I think they're one of the poorer teams in the league. They're safe by all intensive purposes now. I think sitting on 40 points, 39 points, so I don't think they're going to go down. But I think in a normal season, had there not been so much dross this year, they would have gone down. Then we come to Liverpool. We were competitive, I would say, against Liverpool. We weren't good, but we were a bit more competitive. 2-1 loss, and then we're like, okay. Crystal Palace, we can win this game, and then we're looking at, okay, we're mid-table, we're pretty much safe, sitting on 38 points, something like that, 37, 38 points, and it was a typical West Ham performance. A team that can't keep the ball in Crystal Palace out-possessioned us, outplayed us. Their creative quality made us look silly, and it was just it was a hard game to watch. We scored goals, we did well. And I don't want to try and be too negative about it, but Naya Fagerd, he had a half decent World Cup with Morocco, sorry, not Monaco. But people saying, "Oh, this defender's quality, he's brilliant." He's been the downfall of most of our play this season. Yes, he can put a long ball in, and yes, he can score a goal, and he does have moments of brilliance. But other than that, he's making more mistakes than what Diop did. We shipped Diop out to Fulham. Fulham are above us. Well, hang on. He's been the mainstay of their defence this year. So what's that to say? Oh, it says that David Moyes doesn't actually know what he's doing, which is why we lost 4-3 to Crystal Palace. It puts us, in my opinion, back in the danger zone. Had we done that, I thought 3 more points at this stage, we would have been safe. But there's a game going on at the minute, Everton-Leicester. Everton have got the lesser points of that. If they win today, they move within 2 points of us. What are we at? They're at 28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah, so they're within a win of us. And that's then scary because they're still in the fight. Do I think we'll go down? We've got to play, I think, both Everton and Leicester at the end of the season. Or we've got to play at least Leicester and somebody else our last 2 games. So I think we will probably edge something or get a point so I don't think we'll go down. But again, I'm not confident. People going, we've got a game in hand. We'll get onto that in a bit because it's against Manchester City this week. Now, unless something really fucking obscure happens, we're getting a drumming in that game. And I'm under no illusion that we're getting a drumming in that game. So it's a scary thing, but the Palace result, I think Palace deserved it. Creatively, they were better. I think we were very defensively poor as well. Made some silly mistakes, and we sort of deserve to be where we are at the minute. And that's a shame to say because you look at some of the players and some of the quality we do play for very short periods, and you go, this team shouldn't be fighting relegation. We should be pushing up with the Brightons, the Aston Villas. We should be fighting to be best of the rest, at least. And it's just not happened. So I know you're going to ask about David Moyes in a minute. I'm slightly annoyed that we've still got him. We have still got him till the end of the season. And I think they will probably make an excuse as to why we're going to stick with him and we'll have him next season and we'll have the same sort of thing. We'll have a really dodgy season. Players won't want to play for us again. And then we're sort of stuck. But hopefully it does change in the summer. I don't think he's done a bad job by any means. I think we've had the end half of last season and this season have been a bit dogged. but he's done us well. He's kept us up. He changed our fortune. He's given us a little bit of joy, and it's sort of thank you very much, but we need to change direction to see if something else will work. And yeah, so it's one of those things.
Okay, so you kind of stole my thunder a little bit on David Moyes, so we'll let that one slide. Obviously, you're still fighting in the Europa Conference League as well. I mean, if you win that, just going back on David Moyes, do you think that's going to buy him a little bit of grace with the fans, or?
I think it will with the fans. I think a lot of the fans are. We are a little bit expecting us to lose. I think a lot of us, especially after the first result against Ghent, we thought we're gonna lose it. We're gonna be made to look silly. We should be walking to the final, and okay, you look at it and you go, we're probably going to play Florentina in the final, which is it's a decent sized game. I would say that's Europa League final, if I'm totally honest. But I think we should get past Alkmaar. I think they're from what, Holland? I think. Yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
I think they're from Holland. So you think that they're not the big boys of Holland, are they? So we should be walking through that game realistically. But it's just a case, if we get this far again and lose, it's like, well, we're in a lesser competition. We still can't get to the final. Something needs to change. I think a lot of fans didn't want Moyes in the first place, but they will go, okay, we've won something. I don't think that will buy him any more time in the Premier League with them. But it puts us in good stead for next year.
Yeah. Okay, so does winning that get you automatically into the Europa League?
Excellent. I believe so, yes.
Okay, so that's... Oh, obviously, I know you've got to win it yet, but that's looking like, obviously, your...
That's the target.
Yeah, 100%. And if it meant... I say sacrificing because I know, obviously, just going back to the point you said a minute ago, that you're still possibly within that relegation danger. But would you be willing to sacrifice some of those fixtures for if you do get past or into the final, or for the sake of getting to the final?
Looking at our fixtures that are remaining, I think the last... Oh, sorry, it's Leeds and Leicester that we've got to play last. I think if we can get 4 points out of our remaining fixtures, we will be safe. I don't think usually 40 points is a safe mark. I don't think you're going to need that. I mean, before we played Crystal Palace, I was quite confident that 37 would do us. I think that bar's gone up a little bit. Only by a point, so not much. But that then puts you 10 points ahead of where Everton are now. So we've 6 to play, 5 to play. So I think that's enough to be safe. But again, we've got to play City, United, Brentford. I can't see us getting anything out of those games. So I think you have to go full force into the Europa Conference League and hope you pick up a couple of points against Leeds and Leicester, and hope that say the likes of Leicester, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Leeds all drop points in between that, because then we'll be all right. If they all go on and win 2 games each, then hang on a minute, we're now in the relegation zone again. What we can't afford, and this is the bit that is hard, if we win the Europa Conference League but get relegated, that's then a horrific season, because to get out of the Championship is hard enough anyway, and then to have those extra potential, all right, it might only be 6 fixtures. Yeah, 6 fixtures extra, but then you're playing 48 games without the FA Cup, without the League Cup, and a lot of the players are going to want to leave. You've got to do a complete rebuild. That's then a horrific season to try and follow on from. But yeah, we've got to stay in the Premier League. If we don't win the Europa Conference League, it's frustrating, because we should. But if we win that and get relegated, then that's not a good situation either.
Okay, so I suppose from one mediocre club to another, then on to another. Let's talk about Ryan Mason's tenure at Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, he's had a couple of games in charge now. Since the departures of Antonio Conte, and I can never remember or work out how to pronounce this.
Eleni?
Yeah, him. Um,
Yep.
but from his departure after an absolute drubbing from Newcastle last weekend, I think it was. So obviously Ryan Mason's taken the helm again, not for the
Yep.
first time in his Tottenham career, but obviously historically we'll know that he took charge of the cup final a couple of years ago, and Jose Mourinho sacked just before a final, and it was a lot of pressure for him. But obviously we have seen three managers now at Tottenham Hotspurs. They are not in a position, or their fans I think are extremely frustrated with the running of the club. I mean, go back to the start of the season. We've said it a couple of
Everton.
times on the.
Sorry, just quick. Everton have got a penalty.
Oh, go on him.
Calvert-Lewin was through. He got sort of sandwiched. I thought it was a penalty. It took a little while to give. A light. It's a light one. A little shove in the back, but it's definitely a penalty for me. He went down lightly for such a big geezer, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. It's not been taken yet. It's gone to VAR for a definite check. They might give it for a handball, but he handballed it because it hit his shoulder. So who knows who's in the VAR box? But I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. So yeah, just going back to Ryan Mason. Completely lost where I was going with it, but anyway, he's back in charge and has taken charge of a game against Manchester United and against Liverpool at the weekend. Yes. So looking at the Manchester United game, coming away 2-2 with a 2-2 draw on that one, and then going 3-0 down in the space of, I think it was about 20 minutes against Liverpool at the weekend. A lot of Spurs fans were already leaving outside the stadium. And then decided that they were actually wanting to turn up, so they managed to claw it back. And in the dying moments of the game, Richarlison managed to score a cheeky little header over Alisson to make it 3-3 with a minute to go. All they had to do was close the game out, and from a silly back pass, suicide pass, Diogo Jota then runs through and slots the ball into the back of the net. I don't know where I'm really going with this one. It's just nice to talk about Spurs dropping points again. But no, in all seriousness, where did Tottenham go from here? I mean, I think it's pretty evident that they have kind of clocked off for the season now. Like this season, they've got nothing to fight for, I suppose, with the exception of top four. But is that looking ever increasingly likely that they're going to miss out on top four this year?
Yeah, I think top four is now a task for them. They're 9 points behind United, who've got 2 games in hand over them. Just quick, Calvert-Lewin, absolute rocket of a penalty into the roof of the net, 1-0 Everton. But it's I don't think Ryan Mason's done terribly. They come back, didn't they, from 2-0 down against United, showed a bit of fight, got back in that. Good result for them. Considering how horrendously they've been playing. And the Liverpool game, having watched it, I think they were hard done by. Liverpool come out and started with a bang. I didn't see the first 10 minutes because I was doing something else, but I can't sort of loaded up. They're 2-0 down already. And literally I put it in the message and straight away they got a penalty in the 15th minute. And scored that, and it's like, oh, here we go. This is going to be a great game to watch. But then after that, they did show a little bit of stuff. They did get a goal back in the first half through Harry Kane. Son, I think, hit the post and was through on goal. Should have scored, didn't. So that would have been 3-3. Someone else went through and missed. I think it might have been Kulusevski. Missed. So they could have been 4-3 up in the first half, or should have been. Had they been full of confidence, those sort of players, you go, that's a goal. Every time they're through on goal, you're like, that's going to be a goal. But then come in the VAR and the referee. Now I didn't like the referee who did it. It's now the guy who's the ball. I hate him. I think he is the shittest referee we have in the Premier League. And he's one of the senior referees, so people protect him. I think that Jota should have been sent off.
Yep.
That high boot on Oliver Skip made him leave the pitch, and he said, "Well, I didn't mean it. It was at head height, so that means it's dangerous. So it should have been a red. And then he caught him in the face, so again it should have been a red.
With his studs.
Yeah, it's dangerous play. It should have been a straight red. And also, Richarlison was brought down by Kanate. Literally, one arm over his shoulder, one arm under the other arm, wrestled him to the floor. Nothing. Last man through on goal in the box. It should have been a penalty. It could have been another red card. So I do think Spurs were hard done by in that sense, but it's not unusual that Liverpool are getting these sort of decisions.
Closing the name. Closing the name.
Closing the name. Especially if you're dyslexic and you can't spell properly. But it's one of those that actually Liverpool are a big branded team, and I'm going to say it again. I keep going on about it. They're a big branded team. For them to be finishing mid-table is not good for business. It's not good for the Premier League's pocket. It's not good for the marketing. Actually, if you look at the amount of decisions that have gone for them, so with that one, they should have had 2 players sent off and a penalty against them. Jota scored the winner, so he wouldn't have been on the pitch. So that then takes it down to 3-3 still. And a penalty, you'd like to think Harry Kane would probably put that away. That puts it 4-3 in the other direction. So, and then if potentially there should have been 2 red cards, they're going to go on and win that game. It's fixed. They didn't look at the Konate thing for VAR, and they didn't review the referee's decision for the high foot. Now the PGMOL have come out and gone, well, it's subjective decision. It's not. It's dangerous play. He's kicked him in the fucking face.
Yeah.
If that's not dangerous, then nothing else is dangerous. You can kick someone in the face and be fine. Now that said, you have to play with the decisions that are given to you. So you have to go out and win. Now, if I was Ryan Mason, on the way down the tunnel, I would have booted Lucas Moura up the arse as hard as I could and gone, that's what you should have done with a fucking ball, isn't it? Instead of trying to play a fancy back pass. What was that about? You've got 4 seconds to play. The ball comes to you. Hoof it into the crowd. No one gives a toss. Don't try and be fancy with it. So I do think they're playing better under Ryan Mason. Now, whether that's a case of they respect him because he's played with some of them, whether it's a case of they're looking for, okay, I need to tout myself. We've had a really shit season. Need to tout myself to get a move out to a bigger club. I don't know. But yeah, I think all hope of top 4 is gone. I think even 5th is gone. And if I'm honest with you, well, if they play like they did against Liverpool for the second half, or second 3 quarters of the game, I think they will be all right. If they don't, if they have that first half performance with no pressing, no intensity, no nothing, then they're going to finish 8th. And with us potentially winning Europa Conference League as well, they've got nothing next season, which is not a selling point for getting a new manager in. It's not a selling point for keeping Harry Kane. In some senses, it will probably do them good to get rid of Kane. And I think they should have done it before to get in money, but then spend all of it, a bit like they did with Bow, but spend it wisely. 1-1, a slip from Sionchu, but he has put it in past Pickford. But yeah, I think there's nothing for Tottenham players to play for except for a move away from the club, which is a horrendous position to be in. Especially because they have spent a lot of money on the stadium. I haven't been, but it is touted as one of the best footballing grounds in the world. They've got F1 connections now. They've got the American football connections. So as a business plan going forward, that's really promising. But football fans, if I'm honest, don't give a fuck. They want to see results on the pitch. They want to see you winning. And you've brought in 2 serial winners in Mourinho and Conte. You've not really backed them, I don't think, to the extent that they should have been backed. And neither of them have won anything. Now, if these 2 blokes have gone all over the world and won things everywhere they've gone, the only place they haven't is Tottenham, that says there's a problem coming in from the top.
Yep. And
I don't know how else to phrase that, apart from Daniel Levy's a fantastic businessman. I've argued with people about this for years. For balancing the books and getting money into the club, phenomenal. as a footballing person, he says he's a footballing fan. He's not, because otherwise you'd be throwing money at. He's not a football philanthropist, I should say. He's a football businessman, and that's the hard thing to swallow for Tottenham fans at the minute.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think even Conte and Mourinho have both come out and said that the issues are with the upper echelons of the club. I think Mourinho said it after he'd left his tenure at the club, but certainly Conte, that was one of I think the catalyst for getting him out of the club. And yeah, it does absolutely baffle me. And obviously Harry Kane's only got 1 year left on his contract. Now, do Tottenham keep hold of Harry Kane for one more season to let him see out of his contract and let him go on a free if they do finish outside of the European places and practically do what we did, where they've only got to focus on one game a week, unless obviously you've got the FA Cup and the League Cup.
Yep.
And put in a real challenge for the Premier League next year? Or do you cut your losses? Thanks very much for your years of service. We're going to cash in on you. What do Tottenham do in this instance?
Now, for me, I'd get rid. I think they won't want to, but you can still garner some money from him at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
I think to let him go on a free would be a gamble, because if you go on, as you said, and concentrate on that one game a season, they might finish in Europa League place yet. They might get Europa Conference League, so it's not all said and done. But if you are rubbish again next season, will he sign on again? Possibly, even if you're rubbish, I should say, because his value's dropping. It's only dropping. He's not at his peak of his career anymore. Mm-hmm. I would say probably past his peak now. Still a phenomenal goal scorer. You give him the ball in the box, he's going to score you a goal. But he's not as mobile. He's on the decline, I would say, physically. He's not a Ronaldo physically. He's not a James Milner. He's never been the quickest player, and he's starting to get a little bit slower. So he could transition his thing, his playing style. But I think from a business perspective, you've got to sell him. And if you do sell him, if you don't sell him, he is a good selling point for a manager to come in. We've got one of the best out and out strikers in the country. I wouldn't say in the world. You can't be a best striker in the world having won nothing. But we've got a proven goal scorer. If you play for your strengths, he's going to get you 20 goals a season, every season. But I think he'll sell him. And if I'm honest, I would probably, the intensity that they're playing with under Ryan Mason, I might give him the reins. He can't do any worse. The Tottenham fans will give him a little bit of leeway because he is a Tottenham player. He come through the academy, I think. Let him play the youngsters. Tottenham have got some good young players. Oliver Skippy's one of them. You've got Alfie Devine. You've got Troy Parrott and Dane Scarlett, both scoring goals in the Football League. Both strikers. You've then still got Son. You've got Kulusevski. You've got some real good players. Pedro Porro, the right back they bought. He's quite good. Do you know what I mean? Sergio Romero, all right, he's a liability for a tackle, but he's a decent defender. He's horrible to play against for a striker, I would imagine, because he's horrible. He's going to stick his arm in. He's going to leave one on you, and he don't care. In some senses, I would sell Harry Kane, use some of the youth, and buy a new fucking goalkeeper, and give Ryan Mason a job. See what happens. I don't see it going worse than that. If you can get a top class manager, which I don't think they will be able to do, they're not going to do any worse, are they, than Ryan Mason?
Yeah. Oh, but I am interested to see what happens at the end of the season in relation to Harry Kane. And my other question to you is just a ballpark figure. You mentioned obviously about Harry Kane's value. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He's the wrong side of 30 now. Where would you say his value is at the moment?
See, that's a hard one to say because football values are a bit off the wall, aren't they? I would reckon it will still garner 50 million quid.
Yeah,
I think that the figures of, we want 100 million. He's in the last year of his contract. I'll wait 6 months and get him for nothing. Um, the other thing they could do with him is just throw money at him. Is 250k a week to stay? And I think he'd go, okay. He then has to decide for him as a professional: do I want to go on and win something, or do I want to be this guy who was a phenomenal striker who single-handedly have pulled Tottenham up above where they should have been for years and years and years, and I stayed loyal to him throughout my whole career. Do you know what I mean? And you go down as a legend of that club. There's no one that can dispute that actually you're not a Tottenham legend. You are the best player that's ever played for Tottenham.
So he's obviously got the goal scoring record at Tottenham now. He's already England's all-time top goal scorer as well. The only thing I think, just going back to something you just said, is that he's one of the best strikers in England. And he can't be a world best because he hasn't won anything. And I think that's certainly going to ring true, because he hasn't done it on the big stage for country, hasn't done it on the big stage for club as well. I mean, in terms of winning trophies and stuff. And I think I genuinely think that Tottenham made an error in getting rid of Jose Mourinho, because that could have been a piece of silverware under his belt.
It would have been. It would have been.
So yeah, it does beg the question as to what's going to happen with Tottenham, with Harry Kane going into next season. But obviously, we've already had a very quick discussion about the top four: Manchester City, Arsenal, and Manchester United looking like they're going to be the top three. Again, obviously not a dead set because there's still some games to go. Who do you think is going to nick that full spot this year?
You know what? I think Newcastle are going to finish third. They got the ability to blow teams away. They've had a very good defensive season. I mean, they've only lost the same amount of games as you and Man City. It's just the fact they've at times failed to be able to find the back of the net. But they've come into a bit of a purple patch. Callum Wilson scoring, Isaac scoring, a couple of others are chipping in as well. I think they're there. I think Manchester United are, again, lacking a striker, but I think they're going to be fourth. The only caveat to that is Liverpool. I don't know what fixtures they've got remaining. Shall I look it up quick? What their remaining fixtures? Because they're next likely, I think, to be in with a shout. They've got to play Fulham, Brentford, Leicester, Aston Villa and Southampton. So you'd fancy them to win probably all of those. Aston Villa may give them a game. Southampton probably win that because that's the way that works.
Brentford, it will be a difficult one.
Yeah, but I think they've got enough to overcome Brentford. It's one of those. I think if anyone else is in with a shout, it's going to be Brighton. The only thing with that is they've got a lot of games because they've got 2 games in hand over Liverpool, 3 games over Tottenham. 2 against one against Manchester United, but they are currently in 9 points behind, 11 points behind Man United. So they could do it, but I think it's going to be a hard task for them to do so. So I think it's going to be Newcastle United, and possibly Liverpool, depending on the VAR in other games. Because let's be serious, if Manchester United get in the top 4. No one's going to be too upset about that, broadcast-wise. Who's more sellable, Newcastle or Liverpool? Liverpool probably has got more of a pull from around the world, so it would benefit the bank to have a couple of odd decisions that would put Liverpool in the top 4.
And let's be honest. I'm sure Howard Webb has already got his excuses or his apologies ready on speed dial, waiting for those further slip ups that are going to come towards the end of the season. Yeah, but a fair point. Okay, so we every week we do run a set of predictions. Obviously, you can see over, I think it's Ian's left shoulder at the moment, that lovely trophy that's on display there. This is the FIFA Day trophy, or the FDT-TV predictions trophy that's been going on for a couple of years now. Ian's obviously the current holder, but for how much longer? There's still some fixtures left to play for this season. So every week we make our predictions. you get 1 point for a correct result and 3 points for a correct score. So we've already touched on the games that we had predicted last week: West Ham versus Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace versus West Ham. Ian, you had 2-1 to West Ham on that one, and I had 3-1 to Liverpool. So the score was 2-1, so it's a point to me and 0 points to you. Manchester City, Arsenal, you had 1-0 to Man City, I had 2-2. The score was 4-1, so it's 1 point to you and 0 points to me. And then Crystal Palace versus West Ham. You had a 2-2 draw, and I had 3-1 to West Ham on that one. Score was 4-3, so 0 points for each of us on that particular fixture. So it's 1 point apiece for last week's fixtures. So that takes the season totals up to 47 points for you and 59 points for me. But we do have quite a few games to predict this week. So we've got Arsenal versus Chelsea tomorrow night, Manchester City versus West Ham on Wednesday, as you mentioned, and then coming up to the weekend, Newcastle versus Arsenal and West Ham United versus Manchester United. So Arsenal-Chelsea tomorrow. Do you know what? I'm going to be extremely frustrated. Chelsea haven't won a game since I don't even know how long. Frank Lampard hasn't won a game since I don't know how long. We are playing at home, and you can see it written in the stars that this is the game that Frank Lampard gets his Chelsea tenure back on track. No, in all seriousness, I really hope that we come out fighting on this one. Obviously, we've got a massive point to prove, and we need to keep the pressure on Manchester City, even if it does mean that we come second. But we still need to keep the pressure piling on. I'm gonna go down. I think the players are going to be hurting from it. I know that we've got some defensive issues at the moment. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Arsenal on this one.
It's interesting. I think you're right the first time round with your prediction of Frank Lampard might win this. But just before we get to that, Leicester have been the worst of the sides in this game. Iwobi, a former Arsenal player, so it's written in the stars that they've mucked out for Everton as well. He's given the ball away, sloppy passing midfield. Jamie Vardy has been put through. Typical Jamie Vardy goal. He's sprinted through, beat Michael Keane for pace. Jordan Pickford's come out, not wiped him out, not got anywhere near the ball. He's been rounded. 2-1 Leicester. Yeah, back to Chelsea Arsenal. I think you're right. I think one or two things is going to happen. It's going to be a boring game that's going to finish 0-0, or Chelsea are going to win. It's just one of those that you need to win to stay in it. So that pressure's on there. The only thing being Chelsea haven't got Kyle Walker and Akanji to keep Saka and Martinelli out of the game. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea.
Well, I'm hoping it's a new month, fresh start sort of thing that we start picking up the points. But like I said, it's going to be written in the stars. We seem to kind of gift people games when they need it most. So yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think the only thing, or the only
team, aren't you?
Sorry.
You're a community team.
Yeah, exactly.
You share the
exactly. 100%. 100%. We are the team that cares. 100%. So moving very swiftly on to Manchester City versus West Ham. Obviously your team. You give us your thoughts on this one.
We've been awful in possession recently. Manchester City have not been, and they like a goal. Crystal Palace can put 4 past us. I think this is going to be horrendous. I'm not going to go double figures, but I think it could be. I do think that there's the potential for that. I'm going 7-0 to Manchester City.
Even though they only just scraped a win against Fulham.
Fulham are a lot more defensively sound than us.
Okay, fair enough. I'm on the same kind of tracks as you, but I'd like to think it's going to be a similar sort of scenario against the game against Liverpool the other day. You score first, catch everyone off guard, and City end up thumping you 4-1. That's my prediction. Right, so moving on to the weekend, Newcastle versus Arsenal. a game I think that people, well, certainly Arsenal fans, are certainly thinking it was going to be one of the toughest games that we've got, certainly within our run-in, other than Manchester City, obviously. Newcastle, as Ian's already mentioned, have been phenomenal this season, currently sitting in third position. And it was one of the ropier games that we had at the start of the season when we played them at home. But I'm really sitting on a rock and a hard place on this one. I don't know where to go with this one. Obviously, I'm gonna go with my heart. Like I said, I think we're gonna be smarting from the position that we are in. But in a way, I kind of feel like now that we have been knocked off our perch slightly, this kind of alleviates some pressure now. Whereas we were thinking before, we need to kind of equal or better City's results to kind of stay within a shout of the title. I think the pressure comes off us slightly. And likewise with the Chelsea game, I'm going to edge us very slightly on this one. Newcastle have got some really strong defensive units, some big old brutes throughout the pitch, and I think they're going to give us a good game. But I'm going to edge us very slightly to win on this one. I'm going to go for 3-2 to Arsenal on this one.
It's a difficult game, and Newcastle they've struggled, haven't they, against some of the bigger sides this year. The question is, if you lose against, see, this is the trouble, isn't it? We're doing two in a week because the mentality could change. You beat Chelsea, you're back on track. Especially if we get some points against City. If you lose that and City win, then heads drop. I think it has to be said. We can't win anything now. It's not going to happen. Hard mentality to get out of. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. I think that's one of those games that you don't want to lose, and neither do they. So it's going to end up being a really bit of a bore game.
We'll concede without a shadow of a doubt. We've conceded some really sloppy goals, and it depends if we come up against the set piece, because that really seems to be our frailties at the moment. But yeah, I definitely think that we'll concede on that one. But that takes us very nicely on to the last game of the weekend, West Ham versus Man United. Yeah.
After a drumming to City, I don't think United's going to be much better. United are not as prolific, it has to be said, but I think they will have far too much for us. But I think we might get a goal. I'm going to go 3-1 to Man United.
Okay, I'm going to be a bit more optimistic on this one. They've shown, certainly in recent weeks, that they can concede goals. Obviously, shipping 2 against Spurs, as we've already mentioned. I just don't think. I think they're coming up to holiday mode as well a little bit. Obviously, I know they've got the cup final to focus on as well against Manchester City, so they're going to want to put their all in on that one. But I'm going to go for 3-3 on this one.
Oh, that's a high-scoring game. That's a high score.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 3-0 on that one. So, yeah, let us know what your predictions are in the comment section below. And if you have made it this far into the podcast, thank you very much, firstly. But if you're not a subscriber, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, share it amongst your friends. Just to get involved in the banter, you'll see our Twitter handles as well. We do very much like being very sociable. So, get in contact with us and let us know your thoughts on any of the topics that we've spoken about in tonight's podcast. And if you're bored as well, go and check out our back catalogue. What more is there to do on an evening, or when you're sitting on a toilet or whatever? If you've got a spare hour, or if you want to go to bed listening to us, just stick it on. Stick it on and get involved.
Asleep.
You may have already fallen asleep watching this one. But no, in all seriousness, like I said, please hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a comment in the comment section below. But Mr. Ian, obviously you've been giving us some score updates as we've been going. How is the game going at the moment?
I would say Everton have been the better team. They're just lacking goals, and again, lacking goals and some silly mistakes at the back. which is what the only reason Leicester are ahead. But yeah, it's one of those. Leicester have got Dean Smith in charge now. Will they be safe? They've got the quality too. I think they've got the best quality team in the relegation zone, and shouldn't be where they are. But have they got enough to stay up? I don't know. Certainly, if they carry on. Oh, sorry. As I said, that Everton almost scored. It was easier to score than it was to miss. But I think that might have been a Wobie again, or it might have even been Calvert-Lewin, as almost cleared it off the line. Jamie Vardy's up the other end. He's cut in. He's cut out. And he's at the crossbar. What is going on in this game? What a game. Turn it on if you've got it. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I think Leicester will go on to win this with some of these silly mistakes. Sean Dyche will be dying for the next 2 minutes so they can get his team into half time and sort it out. But yeah, nothing else from me other than this is an exciting game.
And just a quick update from me. Arsenal ladies in the Champions League semi-final have been knocked out by VfL Wolfsburg. In the game was 3-2 after extra time. Wolfsburg scoring on the 119th minute to knock Arsenal out of the Women's Champions League. So unlucky to the Arsenal ladies. It looks to be that our seasons as a club is completely capitulating. Obviously, we lost the FA Youth Cup against West Ham last week. It looks as if we're not going to win the Premier League this season. We've now been knocked out of the Champions League in the ladies format. But hey ho, we'll be back again talking absolute waffle next week. Yes, until then, I've been Mike.
I've been Ian.
And we'll see you very soon. Thanks very much for watching.
Bye.